uname and pword not displayed in browser. Not displayed. Okay. Here we are going to type. Here we are going to type something. Username, password. Suppose ABC, XYZ. Suppose here ABC. Here suppose XYZ. Something will type. Now here these two are called request parameter names. These two are called request parameter names, but these are not displayed in browser. Request parameter names. And here ABC, XYZ, these are request parameter values. These are called request parameter values. Okay. Whatever I given here, these are called labels. These are called labels. First write this one. First write this one as it is. Request parameter names, request parameter values, labels. Just as it is, write it. Is it over? Say, we return username and password in the program also, in the browser also displayed. And this is we are going to type in the output only, browser. This is we return in the program, but not displayed in browser. Not displayed in browser. Okay. Now, this username, password present in the program also, output also. And this ABC, XYZ only in output. In a program doesn't appears. But uname and pword appears in program, but not appears in browser. Okay. These two required for Servlet purpose. Okay. First, request parameter names, request parameter values. Uname equal to ABC, pword equal to XYZ. Those are called request parameters. Names, values, totally called parameters. Okay. First, is it over? Now, here, if we don't write anything, see, if I remove, now, if I compile and execute, see, right click, run as run on server, save. Here, homepage.html, you click on registration, type username, first name, last name, username, password. When you click on submit button, here, this switch program, registration.html. Okay, 1 minute. Browser is not recognized immediately. It is not displayed here. 1 minute. I'll change the browser. Browser immediately may not be recognized sometimes. See, right click, run on server. Now, next, finish. Here, homepage.html. Here, when you click registration, see, first name, last name, username, password. If I click submit button, here, you observe, F name equal to triple A, L name equal to double A. These all request parameters. All request parameters concatenated as a one string that is appended to URL pattern, password to server. But if you don't write this, if you write something, method equal to post, it will not display. This is you have seen already yesterday. Run on server, save. Now here, homepage.html. Registration, see. If I click on submit button, see, not displayed. Here not displayed. Previously here displayed. That difference you observed. So here HTTP method, if you use post, it will not display. If you use get, it will display. If you use get, it will display. If you use post, not displayed. Which is default? Get. Here total 5 methods are there. Only 2 methods are required. Get and post. What's the difference? First I'll give notes. Note. Notepad. Just write it. Get versus post. Get versus post. Get versus post. Get versus post. One side get, one side post. Note. Get versus post. One side get, one side post. Get versus post. See, if we don't write method equal to HTTP method, which method works by default? So that is get. If you require get, no need to write get. The word no need to write. By default, get only. Note. In this HTTP method, all request parameters are displayed in address bar. In this HTTP method, all request parameters are displayed in address bar. In this HTTP method, request parameters are not displayed. In this HTTP method, request parameters are not displayed. In this HTTP method, request parameters are not displayed. In this HTTP method, all request parameters are displayed in address bar. In this HTTP method, all request parameters are displayed in address bar. In this HTTP method, request parameters are not displayed. See, this is one difference you have seen. All request parameters displayed in address bar. Here, request parameters are not displayed. This is only one difference you have seen. But there are other differences. Note down. In this approach, request parameters are included in request header. In this approach, request parameters are included in request header. In this approach, request parameters are included in request header in a packet. In this approach, request parameters are included in request body in a packet. In this approach, request parameters are included in request header in a packet. In this approach, request parameters are included in request body in a packet. So, actually data transferred client to server, server to client in the form of packets. In the form of packets. In your CSC, CSIT students, you studied computer networks, data communication. Separate subjects are there, no? Data communication. Data transmitted client to server, server to client in the form of packets. TCP packets, UDP packets, packets format. That is approach here. See, in this approach, request parameters are included in request header in a packet. In this approach, request parameters are included in request body in a packet. See, actually, packet will be like this. One packet created. In that packet, two parts will be there. Two parts. Here, header part less, body part is more. It is header. It is body. Here what will happen? Here included. Request parameters. Here included. In this case, what will happen? Body part included. This is difference. Note down. Request parameters. Header body. Header body. In this approach, what will happen? Included in header part. In this approach, what will happen? Included in body part. Header part, like size is limit. Body part can be increased. So what will happen? For this, some memory will be there. Different browsers, different versions, different sizes memory is there. Some browser supports only 8 kilobytes. Some browser supports 16 kilobytes. Like that, limitation is there. Then what will happen? Up to that only accepted. More than that data, if you send, that data truncated. Data vanished. Whatever you send excess data, that is vanished. And data loss will occur in between client and server communication. So request parameters included in header part, suppose it will allow only 8 kilobytes. Then you are sending 10 kilobytes. Then what will happen? 2 kilobytes data vanished. So data loss. But in this case, this size, there is no limit. If you add 100 bytes, 100 bytes, 8 kilobytes, 8 kilobytes, megabytes also you can send. This body can be increased. This part not increased. Header part is not increased. Header part, it depends upon browser size because it is displayed in address bar. In address bar, continuously you type, somewhere it is going to end. Continuously you type in address bar, somewhere it is going to end. It will not accept characters more than that. That's what here size is limit. Here no limit. Now, in this approach, request parameters are included in request header. But request header, that size is limited. So here size is not limited. That's what. If more data also, get is not suitable. Next, write it. Third one. Here size of the data is limited. Here size of the data is not limited. Here size of the data is limited. Here size of the data is not limited. Here size of the data is limited. Here size of the data is not limited. Here size of the data is limited. Here size of the data is not limited. But here how many bytes limit I didn't give. Reason depends upon browser. Different browser, different sizes is there. Okay. And that too depends upon versions also. Okay. Here size of the data is limited. Here size of the data is not limited. It supports text only. Only ASCII characters. It supports all types of data. It supports text only. It supports all types of data. So whatever you are using, that is displayed in address bar here. In address bar, other than text, is it possible? No. So whatever you are sending data from client to server, the data included in header part displayed in address bar. But suppose you are sending one image, will it display image in address bar? No. So image will not be displayed in address bar. That's what it supports only text. But here all types of data. It supports all types of data. It's just like a byte stream, character stream type also. Okay. Now, whatever you are visiting websites and request parameters data complete stored in browser history here. It is not stored. Here data can be cached, but nothing but stored in browser memory history. Here data stored in browser history. Here, data not stored in browser history. Here, data stored in browser history. Here, data not stored in browser history. Here, data stored in browser history. Here, data not stored in browser history. So, what are the websites you visited? It is going to be stored in a history, no? Data also stored here. Request parameters also stored here in browser history. Later also we can see. Later also, suppose you'll use this browser, you'll enter username, password displayed in address bar. Even other person later also can see your data because that is permanently stored in browser memory. That's what other people later also they can see your password. What are the website you visited? They can see, no? What are the operations you did in this browser? That information browser permanently stored. If you want, you can delete also, but possible. So, data, what are the sites you visited? What are the cookies? Cookies concept further comes. That information also we can store in a browser history. And one more thing, this data here, what are the sites you visited? You can create bookmarks, no? This is bookmark this page. Favorites. But bookmark, this one cannot be bookmarked. Post. Get only can be bookmarked. Here, it can be bookmarked, it cannot be bookmarked. So what you can do is, what are the sites you visited? This is if you press star, say bookmark this page, that will be stored in favorites. So directly it appears which are the websites you opened, favorite sites, those all will be here. These all favorites by default added, and you can add, you can specify, bookmark this page. This bookmark will be saved. Favorites page displayed. Then no need to type URL. Directly you can open favorites. You can click. Always no need to remember websites URLs. You can make it bookmark. Read this one. It can be bookmarked. It can be bookmarked. It can be bookmarked. It cannot be bookmarked. Cannot be bookmarked. It can be bookmarked. It cannot be bookmarked. So bookmark nothing but favorite page. Favorites. Favorites you can store. Then no need to type URL. Directly you can open. So by default favorites also created. See, these are favorites, like you can click directly this one, you can click this one, you can click this one. But if you specify, you know, your order, it is going to be maintained. Then no need to type URL. It can be bookmarked, it cannot be bookmarked because it is stored in browser history. That's what we can bookmark. It is not stored in browser history. That's what it cannot be bookmarked. It is little bit fast. It is slow. It is little bit fast. Fast means fraction of seconds only. Okay, milliseconds gap only. That's it. As compared to post, get is fast. But if the data is confidential, which one we ought to use? Post. You should not see slow or fast. You should see confidential data. That is important. So use get if it is data is not confidential. Write this one. Use get method if the data is not confidential. Use get method if the data is not confidential. Use post method if the data is confidential. Use get method if the data is not confidential. Use post method if the data is confidential. Confidential data is there. Use post. Confidential data is not there. Use get. Like that, you select. Okay. These are the differences between get and post. Okay. See, you are sending one image. Which one we have tried? Post. Suppose large amount of data is there. Which one you have tried? Post. Suppose password or security code or PIN numbers are there. Post. Okay. And your data is less amount of memory. And if it is not important, then you have tried get. Okay. Like that. Like that, you select whether get required or post required. Now, in previous all programs, which type of request came to server? Previous all programs, get type request only came, because by default get. In previous all programs, by default get type requests received by server. Get type requests in previous all programs. What are the basic programs? 8 programs you have seen. We are typing in address bar request password. The requested type is nothing but get type. If you write method equal to post, then only post type request comes. Okay. Then only post type request. Otherwise, get type requests. Now, writing Servlet program, there are 3 ways. Then how to select, I'll explain now. Previous all programs, we used extend generic Servlet, we used service method. Okay. Note down. There are 3 ways to write Servlet program. First one, by implementing Jakarta.Servlet interface. There are 3 ways to write Servlet program. First one, by implementing Jakarta.Servlet interface. Second one, by extending Jakarta.Servlet.generic Servlet class. Third one, by extending Jakarta.Servlet.HTTP Servlet class. There are 3 ways to write Servlet program. There are 3 ways to write Servlet program. There are 3 ways to write Servlet program. First one, by implementing Jakarta.Servlet.Servlet interface. Second one, by extending Jakarta.Servlet.generic Servlet in class. Third one, by extending Jakarta.Servlet.HTTP Servlet class. See, there are 3 ways to write Servlet program. First one, implementing Servlet interface. Second one, generic Servlet class. Third one, HTTP Servlet class. These 2 I explained, but this is I have to explain. Now, you can implement by using this interface. You can extend by using this class. Then what's the difference between these 2? If you implement Servlet interface, 5 methods mandatory to override. If you extend generic Servlet, 1 method mandatory to override. That is the reason we selected generic solid. Remaining 4 methods are optional. Remaining 4 methods are optional. It is not compulsory. But if we select solid interface, compulsory you have to override. Otherwise, class becomes abstract class. The class is abstract, object cannot be created. If object is not created, lifecycle methods are not called. That is the reason 5 methods compulsory you have to override if you select first option. That's what we selected second option. But as compared to second one, third one is better. Why third one is better? Today you are going to learn. That's what in Eclipse, by default, HTTP solid coming you observe. Okay. Now, Jakarta.solid interface inherited Jakarta.solid generic class. It is inherited Jakarta.solid.hdp solid class. First this hierarchy node on. It is an interface. Here 5 abstract methods. It is a class, abstract class. One abstract method. That is service. Here abstract class, here no abstract methods. See, if it is Tomcat 9, here it should be Java X. Okay, Java X. Tomcat 10 onwards, Jakarta. Now, solid interface already inherited in generic solid class. Generic solid class already inherited in HTTP solid class. Now, you can inherit directly solid interface. That is one way. You can inherit generic solid. One more way. You can inherit HTTP solid. One more way. Now, if we implement solid interface, how many methods are mandatory to override? 5 methods. If we extend generic solid, how many methods are mandatory to override? One method. If we extend HTTP solid, how many methods are mandatory? How many methods? No method mandatory. But if you don't write any method, program successfully compiled, successfully executed, but no error, no output. Output also will not come. Okay. Here it is abstract method, no abstract. Here abstract class, but no abstract method. Abstract methods are not there. Not compulsory to override any method. But if you don't write any method, error will not come, output will not come. But why they given like this? Here list of methods they given. You select whichever you want. Here freedom to select. You can select whichever method you want. But here there is no other option. Compulsory service method only. Here some other methods they given. That is the reason no abstract method, and it is abstract class. Without abstract method, abstract class possible or not? You studied in core Java. For writing abstract class, is it abstract method compulsory? No. For writing abstract method, is it abstract class compulsory? Yes. For writing abstract method, abstract class compulsory. For writing abstract class, abstract method not compulsory. Here, it is abstract class, but there is no abstract method. Why they given like this is, here list of method they given. You can select whichever you want according to your requirement. But here, no other option. 5 methods you have to override. Here, no other option. That method compulsory you have to override. Here, options are there. You can select. Here, if we inherit HTTP Servlet, then whichever method you want, that method you can select. That is possible. And that is one benefit. One more benefit, it is subclass. Suppose if we inherit this one, superclass services also we can access. Using subclass, superclass members can access. Using superclass reference, can I access subclass member? That's what HTTP Servlet is better as compared to generic Servlet. Okay. And HTTP Servlet works on only HTTP protocol. Generic Servlet works on any protocol. It is protocol independent. It is protocol dependent. Suppose in future, one new protocol may comes. At the time, what they'll do, they'll create one more Servlet. They'll extend generic Servlet. They'll create one more Servlet class. One more Servlet class. So, whichever is common to all protocols, that is placed in generic Servlet. Whichever is specific to HTTP protocol, that is placed in HTTP Servlet. But HTTP Servlet is subclass of generic Servlet. Using subclass reference, superclass members also you can access. That is the reason it is better. In future, if any new protocol comes in the market, that Servlet they'll prepare. That Servlet they'll prepare. At the time, what they'll do, from the beginning, they won't develop. Only from generic Servlet they'll inherit. That's it. So that purpose inheritance they prepared. You can extend the functionality of this one. Suppose if both are in one Servlet, you cannot inherit. HTTP Servlet specific services may not be possible here. That is the reason they prepared like this. Which are common to all protocols, they placed it in generic Servlet. Which are specific to HTTP protocol, that is placed in HTTP Servlet. Now I'll give you notes. First, is it completed? Now, here first generic Servlet, HTTP Servlet. Differences we'll see. Note. Differences between generic Servlet and HTTP Servlet. Differences between generic Servlet and HTTP Servlet. One side, generic Servlet. One side, HTTP Servlet. Generic Servlet side. It is a protocol independent. It is HTTP protocol. It is HTTP protocol dependent. It is a protocol independent. It is HTTP protocol dependent. It is a protocol independent. It is HTTP protocol dependent. So this Servlet works on HTTP protocol only. This Servlet common to all protocols. This solid common to all protocols. In future, if any new protocol comes, on that protocol also it works. It is common to all. It is only for HTTP. Okay. Next. It supports common services. Examples: forwarding and including. It supports HTTP specific services. It supports HTTP protocol specific services. It supports HTTP protocol specific services. Examples: redirecting and session tracking. It supports common services, forwarding, including. It supports HTTP protocol specific services, redirecting, session tracking. But what is forwarding, what is including, what is redirecting, what is session tracking? Further topics. Further topics in Servlets only, you will see. Now, see, which is superclass? Generic Servlet. Now, it supports forwarding, including. It is subclass. It supports redirecting, session tracking. Now, if I extend HTTP Servlet, can I use these services? Yes or no? Yes. If I extend generic Servlet, can I use these services? That is the reason. Which is better? HTTP Servlet better. Now, write this one. By using, by inheriting generic Servlet, we can access common services only. By inheriting generic Servlet, we can access common services only. By inheriting HTTP Servlet, we can access both common services and HTTP protocol specific services. Because by inheriting HTTP Servlet, we can access both common services and HTTP protocol services, because HTTP Servlet is a subclass of generic Servlet. By inheriting HTTP Servlet, we can access both common services and HTTP protocol specific services, because HTTP Servlet is a subclass of generic Servlet. So always subclass is best option, because using subclass, superclass members also we can access. But using superclass, we cannot access subclass members. That's what HTTP Servlet is the best option. By inserting HTTP Solid, we can access both common services and HTTP protocol service specific services because HTTP Solid is a subclass of generic Solid. Is it over? Now, if we extend HTTP Solid, with HTTP Solid, generic Solid services also we can access. Reason, it is a subclass. It is subclass. Okay. Now, here, if we here I given three ways. There are three ways to write Servlet program. First one, by implementing jakarta.servlet.servlet interface. This is not suitable because always you have to write 5 methods. Always you have to write 5 methods, you have to overwrite. That's what it is not better. Either this or this. In this is best because you can access both common services and HTTP protocol specific services. All possible. That's what it is the best option. But just now I given, if we insert this method, 5 method mandatory. If we insert this method, 1 method mandatory. If I insert this one, no method mandatory. No method mandatory, but many methods are there. How to select? What's the difference? That is required. Is it over? Now, I'll open command prompt. HTTP Solid methods I'll give. See, Java P Jakarta dot Servlet dot HTTP dot HTTP Servlet. Just now you studied how many HTTP methods are there? How many HTTP methods are there? 7 HTTP methods are there. For every HTTP method, there is one method here. You observe. For get, do get is there. For post, do post. For head, do head. For put, do put. For delete, do delete. For options, do options. For trace, do trace. But as well as service overloaded. That is also is there. Overridden, overloaded. All are there. Now first, I'll give the list of methods. After that, I'll explain how to select. Present, 4 methods required. Do get required, do post required. Remaining methods not important. Services required. Now, write this one. I'll remove package names. Write this one. do get, do post, service. Do get, do post, service, service. Two services methods. Is it over? Say there is no abstract method. Now you can write only do get also, only do post also, only service also, one more service also. All also you can override. Two also you can override. Three also you can override. According to your requirement, you can override. But how to select? I'll explain. Now you already studied how many life cycle methods are there? Three. What are those? Init, service, destroy. In these all, any life cycle method is there? Yes or no? Which service? Here, last one. Public void service. Servlet request, servlet request. This is life cycle. This is non-life cycle method. Okay. So this service method is non-life cycle service. This service is life cycle. This is non-life cycle. It is non-life cycle service method. It is non-life cycle method. This is life cycle method. So web container knows only life cycle methods. Web container doesn't know other methods. Okay. So it is life cycle method. It is non-life cycle method. But here it is not compulsory to override life cycle method only. Other method also you can override. But if you override other method, how server will call? Server knows only this method. That is how to explain. I'll explain. See, it is life cycle method. It is non-life cycle method. Okay. And do get, do post also non-life cycle methods. Do get, do post also non-life cycle. Life cycle methods only init, service, destroy. In that we have only service here. We don't have init and destroy. That is already implemented in generic Servlet class. Now it is called non-life cycle service method. It is called life cycle service method. Now, for understanding this one, core Java knowledge is also required. Dynamic polymorphism, runtime polymorphism is that is also required. First, I'll explain how it is going to call. After that, how to select, I'll explain. See, web container knows only one method, that is service, which takes servlet request, servlet response. Web container knows only this method. Service, HTTP servlet request, HTTP servlet response, it doesn't know. Here, do get, here, do post. I'll explain. Here, web container calls this method. Web container calls this method. This method calls this method. This method checks the request type. If the request type is get, then it calls do get. If the request type is post, then it calls do post. Now, first write this one. Write this one, I'll explain. First write this one, I'll explain. Is it over? Core Java runtime polymorphism concept required to understand this dynamic polymorphism. Is it over? Still not completed. Web container knows only lifecycle service method. That is service, servlet request, servlet response. That is going to call non-lifecycle service method. That is service, HTTP servlet request, HTTP servlet response. What this method will do, it checks the requester type. Which type of request came? If get came, then it calls do get. If post came, then it calls do post. Now, first I'll ask some questions. Give me answer. With core Java knowledge, you can give answer. It is possible. Over. Say here HTTP servlet. HTTP servlet. It is one class. In this class, we have do get, do post, service, HTTP servlet request, HTTP servlet response. It is non-life cycle. Service, servlet request, servlet response, life cycle. Now, it is my servlet. Okay, suppose my servlet, our servlet will write. Now, I'll inherit. Now, here, is there any method mandatory to override? Now, just now, 5 minutes back I given. Once again, I'll ask question, give me answer. How many ways are there to write servlet program? 3 ways. What is first one? By implementing servlet interface. Second one, by extending generic servlet class. Third one, by extending HTTP servlet class. If we implement servlet interface, how many methods mandatory to override? 5 methods. 5 methods mandatory to override. If we extend generic servlet, how many methods mandatory to override? 1 method. Which method? Service method. If we extend HTTP servlet, how many methods mandatory to override? But this is only asked, no? But again, from the beginning, I have to teach. See, just now what I asked, how many methods mandatory to override asked. But no one given answer. Again, I started from that. Then all people giving answer. That means like a primary school student, question, answer, order also you are by hearting. Primary school student, what will happen? If you change the question, they won't change the answer. Like that. Here, but this is only asked. HTTP servlet inherited. Then how many methods mandatory to override? No method mandatory to override. For this question purpose, other questions also asked. Okay. See. Now, no method mandatory to override. Here, extends HTTP servlet. If you write, no method mandatory to override. But what I am doing, I am overriding this service method. Okay. My servlet extends HTTP servlet. This method I overridden. Now, one request comes. Get type requests or post type requests. Then what will happen? Here, my servlet service method is called. If not overridden here, what will happen? HTTP servlet service method called. This method calls this method. This method checks request type. If get type request is there, do get. Post type request is there, do post. Like that mechanism already developed. But this total code already written. If we don't override any method, no error, no output. Okay, that's what you have to override. Suppose if I override service method, first what will happen? Life cycle service method called. Life cycle service method available in HTTP servlet also, my servlet also, which is called my servlet service called or HTTP servlet service called. My Servlet service called. With this only stopped. Because the calling from year to year, they written year, not from year. This is we written, we overridden. It is called and stopped. Then what will happen? There is no difference between generic Servlet, HTTP Servlet. If you write this one. Okay. Suppose I'll write service which takes HTTP Servlet request, HTTP Servlet response. Now, one request comes, that a get type request or post type request, one request came. Then what will happen? Request came to my Servlet. Then what will happen? First, it will check life cycle service method in my Servlet class. Is there? No. Then what will happen? See, observe, core Java questions, all people are not giving answer. Reason? Not listening properly. Now, my first request comes. First, what will happen? It will search for life cycle service method in my Servlet. Is there? Then what will happen? HTTP Servlet life cycle service method called. What this will do? It calls non-life cycle service method, which is called HTTP Servlet or my Servlet. Now, just now one diagram you have seen. Web container calls. What I given? Life cycle service. Life cycle service calls. Non-life cycle service. That will check request type. If get type is there, do get. Post type is there. That is a given. That is only I'm asking here. Now, suppose here get type request came. First, control comes to my Servlet. In my Servlet, it will search for life cycle service. Life cycle service is there. Then where it will search? Is there? It is called. What this will do? It calls non-life cycle service. Non-life cycle service available here also and here also, which is going to be called. How many people answer HTTP Servlet? Just raise your hand. Next. How many people answer my Servlet? Okay. See, majority people hand is like this only. That means they are not confident. Just they are selecting one answer. They are not giving confidently. If you are confident, your hand will be like this. Okay. If you are not confident, hand will be like this. That shows confidence level. And also, voice comes louder if you are confident. Otherwise, your voice beside person also cannot understand. Same in interview also. If you know the answer, you'll give it louder voice. If you don't know answer, interviewer cannot understand what you are saying also. That will be happen. That is confidence level. You observe. You already studied method overriding. If the method is present in subclass method called. If not there, superclass method called. That means which is called? My Servlet called. First, it will search in subclasses only always. That is only called dynamic binding. If not there in subclass, then it will search in superclass. So, what will happen? This service method called. From this, my Servlet service called and stopped. Okay. Suppose Suppose I'll write here do get. I'll write do get. Request came. Which type request? Get type request came. Get type request came to my Servlet. Get type request came to my Servlet. Now first what server will do? It will search for life cycle surveys. Is there? Then where it will search? Is there? It is called. After this, what it will do? It calls non-life cycle surveys. It is there. Is there in my Servlet? Then what it will do? HTTP Servlet. It is called. It is called. What this service method will do? It checks the request type. Which type request came? Then what it will do? Do get method called. Which do get? My Servlet do get method called now. Okay. Suppose here this is post type request came. Suppose post type request came. Then first control comes to my Servlet. First what it will do? It will search for life cycle surveys. Any life cycle service is there? Then where it will search? HTTP Servlet. Is there? It is called. What it will do? It calls non-life cycle surveys. Is there in my Servlet? No. Then what it will do? HTTP Servlet. It is called. This will check request type. Post or no. Which type request came? Then what it will do? Do post. Which do post? HTTP Servlet, because we don't have do post. It is called. Then your program not executed. Okay. Here what we have to do is first we have to decide which type of request you want to handle. That purpose some other concepts required. See. Write it. Do get method. Do get method. It handles only get type requests. It handles get type requests only. It handles get type requests only. Do post. It handles post type requests only. It handles both get and post type requests. It handles both get and post type requests. It handles both get and post type requests. So do get method handles get type requests only. Do post method handles post type requests only. Service method handles both get and post type requests. I have to explain, not completed. Is it over? Do get method handles get type requests only. Do post method handles post type request only. Service method handles both get and post type requests. Which is superclass, which is subclass in generic Servlet, HTTP Servlet? Generic Servlet is superclass. HTTP Servlet is like that only. Here Servlet request interface is there. HTTP Servlet request also interface is there. It is super interface. It is sub interface. Note. Servlet response. Servlet request, HTTP servlet request. Servlet response, HTTP servlet response. Which one is better? Servlet request better or HTTP servlet request better? HTTP servlet request is better because sub interface. Here also HTTP servlet response is better because sub interface. So always subclasses, sub interface is better. With that subclasses, superclass methods also, super interface methods also we can access. Now you observe. Here, do get method, HTTP servlet request, HTTP servlet response. Do post, HTTP servlet request, HTTP servlet response. This service, HTTP servlet request, HTTP servlet response. But this service, servlet request, servlet response. So in these four methods, it is not better. Okay. But web container knows only this method. Already know. See, if you override this one, then no difference between generic servlet, HTTP servlet. If you override this one, then no difference between generic servlet and HTTP servlet. Okay. Because this service method takes only servlet request, servlet response. But generic servlet service method, this one only. So then writing extends HTTP servlet is wasted. Writing extends HTTP servlet is wasted. If you use HTTP servlet is wasted. If you write this service method. Because there is no difference between generic servlet, HTTP servlet if you override this one. Now, we should not override this one. Now, do get, do post, these three, this service. In these three, you have to select. Suppose you want to handle only get type requests, then do get. You want to handle only post type requests. You want to handle both. Which service? Life cycle service or non-life cycle service? This is you have to select. This is you should not select. If you select this one, no use of HTTP servlet. Because it takes only servlet request, servlet response. That's what. We have to select either this or this or this. Okay. These three. How to select, how to write program, we'll see tomorrow. Tomorrow we'll see continuation.